Here's the economic update for February 22nd, 2026. The leading economic index continued to decline in December, although it's no longer triggering a recession signal, and it hasn't been for the last couple of months. It's declining, but it's not declining as rapidly as it was earlier last year. They're looking at projecting weaker growth in fourth quarter of 2025 through early 2026. When we look at the coincident economic indicator, this continued to grow, but still it's at a slower pace. When we ask ourselves, what is impacting the leading economic index? And really, it's negative consumer expectations of business conditions and the ISM new orders over the past 6 months. Financials have been adding to the net benefit of this, but these two are dragging on it. Speaking about manufacturing, on February 2nd, we have the ISM. It was the first month of new orders growth in January in about a year, and other than a couple of months here or there, manufacturing has been in decline since 2022. The report also shows that manufacturing and the economy are both growing right now. So the economy has been growing at a good clip with GDP. However, manufacturing has not been up until January. When we look at GDP, we had an update on February 20th. So first quarter of 2025, we had negative 0.5%. Second quarter was at a strong 3.8% growth. Third quarter was the highest in over 2 years at 4.4%. Fourth quarter, our estimate is now only 1.4%. This is a lot lower than they were estimating. They think the shutdown had a negative impact on this. And then GDP now, first quarter 2026 is estimated at about 3.1%. If you want to look at the components of GDP, generally speaking, consumer spending is about 60 or 70% of GDP, and it's no surprise it's also one of the largest components here as well. Investments, that was also up, and we had the government shutdown, so government spending was basically a drag on GDP. You have exports minus imports. The exports weren't as good, so that dragged down GDP. But the imports, there may not have been as many, so it boosted up GDP slightly. Speaking about imports and exports, on February 20th, the U.S. Supreme Court deemed that many of the tariffs are illegal. You can't just pick different countries and go after them. So one thing that President Trump could do is he can move for 10% blanket tariffs across all countries. That would be allowed, and that could be allowed for up to 150 days. Basically, the legal grounds of why this was struck down. The president is the executive branch. They don't have the right to tax. Congress has the right to tax. So if you want tariffs, you really have to get Congress to approve a bill and then go through the House and the Senate, and then it goes to the president, and then they could veto or approve the bill. And if it's deemed, that some people have issues with it, it can go through the court system and then go up through the U.S. Supreme Court. So that's what happened. But Congress didn't pass any of the laws to tax these other countries. Therefore, that's why it's illegal. But there are a couple of things that could be done where you have blanket tariffs across all countries, but again, for a limited period of time. So let's see how the consumer is doing. On February 20th, we got data on disposable personal income. This is up $75.7 billion month over month. However, the personal consumption expenditures were up $91 billion. Most of this was spent on services such as housing, utilities, more so than goods. And the personal savings rate is continuing to decline. So that's not really in the direction you would want to be. If we look at the household debt report from fourth quarter that just came out of 2025, the Fed reported that there is an additional $44 billion in credit card debt balances over those 3 months. So that means consumers are adding about $15 billion per month on credit card debt. And if you look, what's the difference between 76 billion and 91 billion? Hey, it's not that far off from 15 billion a month. So if you thought people were struggling with credit card debt, you would expect delinquencies to start to rise. So 90-day delinquent debt, if you look at credit cards, they're now at the highest rate since 2009 through 2011. If you noticed at the end of January, there were a few calls for credit cards to have a temporary cap at 10% interest, not the normal 29.9% interest February 20th, we had the index of consumer sentiment, and that was up 0.4% month over month, but still down 12.5% year over year. The current economic conditions were up 2.2% month over month, but down 13.9% year over year. The index of consumer expectation, we are down 0.7% month over month and down 11.6% year over year. So going back to consumer expectations going down. Businesses were expecting more sales in December due to the holiday season. However, February 10th, we got our retail sales. They remained flat from November through December, and it may have actually gone down just slightly, but statistically, they're the same number. So we went from 735.1 billion to 735.0 billion. So it was not as great for holiday sales as people expected. But when people were interviewed and said, are you spending more or less? Many people were saying, I'm cutting back on spending. If we look at the housing market with real estate on February 19th, the pending home sales are down 0.4% year over year, even though we're now around 6% interest rates, and an additional about 5.5 million households could now qualify for a home. Part of the reason for the pending home sales to be as low as they are in the Northeast and in the Southeast, I would say, we had a lot of winter weather, and that would prevent people from going out looking at houses. Cold weather that we haven't seen in like 20 years. If you look out to the Midwest or you look out to the Southwest, there have been increases in home sales in those areas. What's inflation look like? On February 20th, we had our personal consumption expenditures of 2.9%. This is kind of just going up and down, but it's not moving that much compared to a year ago. And we also have personal consumption expenditures core, that means minus food and energy, and that's also kind of bouncing around to where it was about a year ago, so no big news there. On February 13th, we had our consumer price index of 2.4%. This is going down month over month, and our consumer price index core minus food and energy was at 2.5%, still going down. On January 30th, we had our producer's price index. That's going up pretty quick at 3%, and our producer's price index core minus food and energy is at 3.5%. The worrying bit here is usually the PPI goes up first because that's what the producers of your goods and services have to pay when they buy things. And then eventually they start passing it off to the consumer here and here. So you would expect these to start to go up if this is going up. Do remember that the Fed has a dual mandate. One is to keep stable prices. So they have a target of about 2% inflation. We are above that pretty much everywhere I look. The other one is to keep maximum employment. So speaking about employment, let's talk about the jobs. So February 14th, initial unemployment claims came in at 206,000. This number has been just kind of jumping within bounds. It's not really moving in any significant direction, I would say. So I'm not too concerned there. If the net positive 130,000 jobs is true, that's a really good number because January was also one of the worst months in a number of years for layoffs through multiple different independent sources. And we are now sitting at 4.3% unemployment. This has been climbing since about 2023 when it was around 3.5%. So now we're at 4.3%. So it's down month over month, but it's up, significantly over the last year or two. Bigger news for me is the major revision in the 2025 numbers. We were initially told that over 584,000 jobs were created, and now we realize that there were only 181,000 jobs created. If you think about 15,000 jobs per month, that's not enough to basically have enough jobs for the population growth within the United States. When you see 4.3% unemployment, that really corresponds to about 7.4 million people that are unemployed at the moment. When we look at our JOLTS report on February 5th, they're reporting that there's 6.5 million open jobs. And if you take those two numbers, that means there's more than one unemployed person for every job that's open. So even if all the jobs were filled, there would still be, 0.9 million people that are unemployed that still want a job. And if you look year over year, there's actually 966,000 jobs less this year compared to a year ago. So there's almost a million less jobs available. So this is why the Fed's been dropping interest rates, because they don't want to see the unemployment rate go higher. And they're willing to risk a bit more inflation because they think inflation is not the big risk here. It's that unemployment ticks up too fast. On February 19th, the New York area Fed did a survey of businesses and found that businesses are continuing to contract. Employment has been shrinking, and now it's the 6th month in a row. But they're thinking that the future is optimistic, so it's good looking forward, but in the current condition, it's not doing so great. So global AI spend is forecasted to be about $2.5 trillion in 2026, and the US is looking to spend about $690 billion of that. Now, to put that number in perspective, if you were to build every highway that has been built in the interstate highway system in the US, that cost in today's dollars about $620 billion. So AI costs more than every single interstate highway that's been built in the United States. That's a lot of money. I hope it's worth it. We'll see in the future. Also, to put it in perspective, the US GDP is about $31 trillion. So if you took $690 billion and divided by $31 trillion, you would find that AI spending is about 2.2% of the projected GDP this year. The expected growth in the US economy, I'm seeing sources saying it's expected to be about 2.1, 2.2%. So if this is 2.2% of GDP, that's almost all of the GDP growth that we would have for the year. So if something happens with AI in the negative sense, I think we'll be in trouble. So as long as the spending continues and the investment continues in AI, I think we're good. If it doesn't, we might have some issues. If you'd like to learn more about how to make more money, how to save, how to invest, how to start businesses, be an entrepreneur, this is a channel for you. I cover all of those topics. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and have a great day.